Hello, welcome. Hi, everyone. We'll just give it a few seconds before we jump into it. It just hit the hour, so we'll ease into it. But I'd like to thank all of you for joining, those who are already here. And if you are just getting here, again, thank you. And this is our Teacher Time Savers webinar. We'll be talking about making the most of Ellie's content drawer and folders. So yeah, welcome everyone. We'll just jump into it. We're doing this webinar today because it's going to ultimately help you plan more easily. It'll save you time. So I'm really excited to talk about our content drawer and our folders. And actually until recently, I was a teacher and I used to teach middle and high school, and then I transitioned into adult ed. And at both organizations I was a part of for adult ed, I used Ellii and loved it so much that I applied for a job here. So I really am genuinely happy to be telling you about all these features that can save you time and just add to your teaching experience. Feel free to say hi in the chat. I see some people are already jumping in and saying hi. But yeah, feel free to say hi. And I'm actually going to launch a poll as you're all getting in here. And this poll is just a few questions that will give us some more information about your experience with Ellii. So that poll is up now. Please feel free to answer those when you can.
Thanks, Christine. And I'm Kylie. I'm also a teacher trainer here at Ellii. And like Christine, I've been an ESL teacher for years before joining the Ellii team. And today I'll just be asking questions and adding insight throughout our conversation to help connect what we're talking about today to your experience as teachers. So I see people are joining in here from Texas, Georgia, Norway. Welcome,
Wow.
Ohio State, Calgary.
Ohio. That's
Ohio.
right.
Christine's from Ohio, Mexico. Wonderful. Ottawa. Well, thank you so much for being here, everybody. And as you're completing that poll, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items as we're getting started and folks are still joining. So this session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after the session today. And for all of you who are joining live, you'll also receive a PD certificate after we finish up today. As we're moving through the webinar, please use the Q&A feature down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to ask questions that you have throughout. We've got a panel of team members here from Ellii who will be answering your questions during the webinar, and we'll also have some time at the end to go over those questions that are pending. So thank you so much, and let's get started.
All right, thank you, Kylie. Now, for the webinar objectives, you probably already know that we're talking about the content drawer, and we'll start with how to find it and navigate it because, of course, you have to know where it is to use it. And then we'll go into the saved, recommended, and student pick sections. And after that, we'll talk about how to create and manage folders because folders are part of the content drawer, but there's actually a lot more you can do with them that is more than just the content drawer. So we'll save folders for the end. And I see a lot of you have answered the poll, so thank you very much. Since we're now jumping into the webinar, I'm actually going to hit end. But again, thank you for those who filled it out. And we will go into how to find the content drawer. I am on Ellie's Discover page, and this is where you go when you've just logged in. So every time you log in, you land on the Discover page, and we're going to go up to the Everything menu and then go over to Classroom. That's on the left-hand side under Planning and Prep. Now, to access your content drawer, you have to have already created a class. So if you've never made a class, and if you don't have any classes like I do showing up here, you'll have to hit that Create Class button to access your content drawer. I'm going to go into my English for Daily Life Autumn A class, and this class has its own content drawer. every class on Ellii that you make will have its own unique content drawer. So it's a really helpful way to attach materials to specific classes. And we're talking about the content drawer because we used to have, or we used to have teachers who would say, I need better ways to get organized and I need some ways to plan. And I know I'm one of those teachers that struggles on my own to plan and organize. And so the content drawer was created to help make your lesson planning more easy. Now, the lesson planner is up on my screen, and some of you might already know about this, but if you don't, we actually have an entire webinar about the lesson planner up on our YouTube and webinar pages. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of it. I'm not going to get too into it today, but I'll show you that there is a prepping lane, a teaching lane, and a taught lane. So the prepping lane is where you put content that you'll be teaching soon, but it's not yet available to students. The teaching lane is available to your students. It's in blue, it's a different color. Your students can see that content. It's what they're currently working on. And the taught lane is content that's already been taught, and students actually still have access to it on their end. Now, there is a new feature. I will point out a new feature about the lesson planner because a lot of teachers had asked us, can I assign work or a lesson to individual students or small groups of students within my class? And we just created a feature that lets you do that. So if you go up like to your lesson and your lesson planner and the let's say prepping lane. So students don't see it yet, but I'm preparing to send it their way soon. I'll click on the lesson, and then there is a button that says students up top. And now I can select either all students or some students. And then I would choose what students I want to have access to it. And those are the students that would have access after I hit the save button. So again, that is a new feature, and you can now assign lessons to individual or small groups of students in your class. I also want to point out that if you're moving your cursor on Zoom and the bar on Zoom comes up at the bottom, it might actually be blocking where to find the content drawer. So if you can't see the button I'm about to refer to, it might be because the Zoom controls are coming up along the bottom of your screen. But the content drawer is in the bottom left-hand corner of each lesson planner. So every time you're in a class, your lesson planner has a button to the content drawer. And when I click on content drawer, it takes me into the content drawer. And as I mentioned, at the very beginning with the objectives, we have saved, we have folders, recommended, and student picks. And as you can see, I've got, food allergies in here because my daughter has allergies. She's allergic to cashews, pistachios, milk, and egg whites, not egg yolks. So I wanted to put that one in the drawer today. So if any of you have allergies, maybe give us a shout out in the chat.
And so, Christine, if two teachers are co-teaching this class, do they both see the same content drawer?
Yeah, whether you're a lead teacher or a co-teacher, you have access to the content drawer and the same capabilities. So you could add content to it, take it out, move it into the lesson planner. You can do all of the same, whether you're a co or lead teacher. And I can actually just get into the save section and show you how to do that. So the save section of your content drawer is for lessons that maybe you'll teach in the future, but you're just not sure yet. When I used to teach, I didn't know where to save my lessons, and I just would try to remember what I wanted to find on Ellii, but obviously that's not very effective. And so this is a good place to put lessons that you're hoping you can use later, but you're not ready to put them in your lesson planner yet. Like this food allergies one, I added it because my daughter has allergies, but I actually haven't thought of when I could really teach it in my class, but it's there in case I want to add it. Now I can show you how to add content to this section because you might be wondering, well, okay, I see the save section. I know how to get here. How can I put content in it? I used to wonder the same thing. I'm exiting out of the content drawer, and I'm going to go up to the everything menu at the top of the page, and let's look at lessons. Now, I'm planning for one of my adult ed classes, so I'm going to click on the life and work genre. And I really like this lesson section called Everyday Dialogues because, like the name says, it's everyday dialogues, things that students would hear out and about. I mean, I'll never forget when I moved to Germany and heard German out and about in public for the first time. It was so different than what I had learned from my textbook in a classroom. So everyday dialogues is much more realistic than like a textbook. And I'm looking through this lesson section, again, just getting ideas from my class. And I see this lesson about going to the dentist. I think that could be helpful. I just unfortunately got a few cavities now that I'm in my 30s. I'd made it so far and now I got some cavities, but I'm going to hit this plus button and now I can choose a class to add it to. So again, you have to have already created a class to add things to the content drawer. And I'm going to choose my English for Daily Life Autumn A class. And now I can choose the location. I'm not sure when or if I'm going to actually teach this lesson, but I like it. So I'm putting it in my saved section of the content drawer and I'll hit save and now it's in there. But I'm still planning, getting ideas for my class. And let's see. There's a lesson here about going to the library. I think the library is a wonderful resource for students, so I'm going to add this. However, I want to look at it first. Okay, I'm on the lesson overview page, just gives me information about the lesson. I decide, all right, I like this lesson. I can add it from this page as well. There is a button in the upper right-hand corner that says add to class, so I'll click that. Again, I choose the location. English for Daily Life, Autumn A, and I'll choose the saved section of my content drawer. I hit save, and now it's there.
And so, Christine, you showed us how to add lessons. Can you also add courses or materials from the media gallery, like videos and flashcards, to your content drawer?
Yes, you can add a lot more content that's not just lessons, so I can show you a few examples of that. Let's go to courses and study packs. So I'm going to click this icon in the top left-hand corner, which takes me back to the Everyday Dialogues lesson section, and it lets me access the Everything menu again. And we have courses and study packs on the Everything menu. And I'm teaching adults, so I'm going to use the workplace category over here on the right-hand side. And I see, okay, I teach in the US, so there's a pre-employment in the US course. I think this is really important because students, of course, need to learn how to even apply for a job and what to do before they get a job, right? I'll click into it. And now within the course, there's a button that says add to class. I can click it. I'll choose the location, so English for Daily Life, Autumn A, and saved. And now it's there. And you also asked about videos and flashcards. Those are in the media gallery on our site. So again, that's accessible through the Everything menu. And there's a button here that says Media Gallery. And we have almost 6,000 flashcards, which is wonderful, but of course, maybe a little overwhelming to comb through all of them. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to look at some categories that might be helpful. And I see there's a food and drink category. And I also teach a young learners class in the morning. So maybe one day I'll maybe, teach them some breakfast vocabulary. There's a group of flashcards just about breakfast. So I'm in those flashcards. All I have to do is click add to class. This time I'll select my young learners class because it's not my adult class. I'll choose the save section of my content drawer and then hit save. And it's in my class. And then I will point out with videos, you have to actually click into them to add it. So I'll look up the bank, okay? I do most of my banking on my phone, but every now and then I have to go to the bank, and I know students need to as well. So I see a few different videos at the bank. I've watched this video. I really like it. I'll click into it, and now there's a button right below the video that says add to class. This would be more appropriate for my adult class, right? So I'll add it to English for Daily Life and into my content drawer. Again, I don't know yet, if I'm teaching it. This is just for maybe later. I hit save. I get this pop-up where I can hit view class at the bottom. I'll go back into my content drawer, and now I can see all of this material in my content drawer. And let's say when I was planning, I was getting all excited about lesson planning. I really like to plan, and I realized it's a little bit, it's too much to think I'll have time to teach my students about at the bank. We don't actually have time for that. So all I have to do is click it and delete it because I decided I don't want it in my content drawer anymore. Delete, it's gone. But I realized we are going to have time to talk about asking for directions. So again, I click it and then I can drag it into either my prepping or teaching lane. I'll keep it in the prepping lane. I don't want students to see it yet. When I hit save, I'll show you. It's now right here in the prepping lane, and I could move it around if I don't want it to be up top. I could drag it into teaching whenever I'm ready for students to see it.
Great. So now we know how to add materials to the saved section. I saw something that said recommended in the content drawer. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, okay. I'll go back into the content drawer. So again, it's that button in the bottom left-hand corner, which you may or may not be able to see due to the Zoom controls. And like you said, we have a recommended section. And this is fun because it is helpful when you're feeling stuck. You maybe don't even know what lessons to think about on your own. You can go to the recommended section and it will suggest or recommend lessons based on the level of your class and the age of your class. So I'm in my adult class and I see a variety of lessons here. Oops, Steve Irwin. I wonder if there's anyone from Australia here. Feel free to message the chat if you're from Australia. But yeah, that is how you can get to the recommended section. But I want to let you know something. I'm going to go to my young learners drawer and show you something about the recommended because it's important to know. If I scroll up and in the top left-hand corner, I click classes, I can go back to my classes page. And at the bottom, there's a young learners class. Now, when I go into the content drawer for young learners and click recommended, there's not actually anything here. It's not a malfunction. Nothing's messing up. It's because when I created my class, I didn't update the settings. I didn't customize it. So I'll click this button, update settings, scroll down, and I need to select the level of my students. This group is a low beginner and high beginner mixed group, and they are young learners. That's also what I named the class, just to be, quick and easy for me. And now when I hit save and I go back to my lesson planner into the content drawer and click recommended, I can see a variety of lessons that are age and level appropriate. And if you notice any of the recommendations on my screen for the adult class, you'll see now that in the young learners class, it looks quite different because it's a different age group and a different level. And I see there is a lesson about Thanksgiving for the US, and I'll put that in my prepping lane. I click it, and now I can move it to my prepping lane. Like, let's pretend it's the week of Thanksgiving, I'll teach it soon. So I'll hit save. And now it's in my prepping lane. And the recommendations are from content that's being featured on Ellii, content from our lesson calendar, and then, like I said, it fits into the age and level of your students.
And Christine, you said this syncs with the lesson calendar. What is
Mm.
that?
Yeah, so okay, the lesson calendar is wonderful. And I'm kind of laughing right now because when I was a teacher, and this is true, I promise, I would use Ellii to teach holiday lessons. And every year, I would have to go back on Ellii for the holiday and try to remember, okay, did they have this lesson? What lesson did they have? What level? And I would be like, I would comb through Ellie's site looking for like Thanksgiving, different lessons, St. Patrick's Day, whatever. And there's actually a lesson calendar on Ellii that does all of that for you. So on the everything menu, we have a calendar section. We can click it. And Ellii has gathered all of the timely material that pairs with awareness days, events, and holidays and grouped it together for you. For example, Thanksgiving is coming up. So let's say I'd like to find some lessons for Thanksgiving. I'll keep going. I'll click American Thanksgiving for November 27th. And I have all of the content right here. Different levels of lessons, a listening activity, flashcards. I mean, there's beginning, intermediate, advanced. This would have saved me so much time as a teacher. So yeah, that is the lesson calendar, Kylie. It groups lessons together based on holidays and awareness days and so forth.
Yeah, this is great, especially around this time of the year with so many holidays coming up, like you mentioned, and special things going on. Now, let's imagine that I want my students to have a say in what I'm teaching. Is there a way I can get their input through using the content drawer?
Yes. Okay. As we know, as teachers, it's really important for students to have a sense of agency and input when possible for class. And we have made that possible with student picks. I'll go to some lessons and show you how to do that. So with student picks, you can go into a lesson section and add an entire lesson section, which I'll show you how to do. But just so you have an idea as to why would I use student picks? I know it gives students agency, but how do I know what sections to choose? I could give you an example. Maybe you look at the grammar genre and you want to choose a lesson section in here because you want students to be able to vote on some areas they want extra practice with, right? We can't always, I was going to say we can't always read our students' minds. We can never read our students' minds, and sometimes we need to prompt them a little bit to let us know what they need help with. Or maybe you want to look at the topic-based genre. This is another great one for the student picks. And let's look at, okay, we've got like famous people, famous places, and things. I'll look at the famous people section because I think students often want to learn more about people famous in the US, or even they want to share about people who are famous in their country, right? So this could be a good section to add. Now, when I add this, I'll click this button that says Add to Student Picks in the top right-hand corner. And I can only add student picks to classes where I've customized the settings, where I've added the level and the age of the students, because this feature protects age and level. So if I recommend, or if I, add student picks to my intermediate class, none of the advanced lessons would show up for that class. So you have to customize your class settings in order to add this to a class. And we typically recommend the student picks for like our intermediate and advanced students, some higher level students normally. I'll hit save and it's been added.
And so, what does this look like on the student's end? Can they see how their classmates voted, or is it anonymous?
It is anonymous, but I'll just show you what it looks like because I'm sure some of you might be thinking, I'm still not exactly sure what you're talking about, Christine, with student picks. So I'll log out as a teacher and go log in as a student. So I'll pretend to be a student. So log out, log back in, log in as a student. Okay, I'll use one of the profiles I've already made. And now I have Ellii and Ellii Solo up because this student is part of an Ellii organization that has access to Ellii Solo. That is a self-study program for independent learning. It's different than Ellii, but that's why it's up there for anyone who's like, what's that? So I'll click on Ellii, the yellow square. That's what we're looking at. And now my student is on her page. So again, I'm logged in as a student. She can see her class, English for Daily Life, Autumn A. And when she goes over to my picks, now this is from that lesson section, famous people, that when I was a teacher, I added. So now the student can see all of these lessons and vote on them. So again, I'm a student and I'm looking at these people. Okay, I just watched for the first time in my life my first baseball game from start to finish in the World Series, and I really liked watching Shohei Ohtani, so I'm going to vote on him. And my sister is a huge Taylor Swift fan. I am too, but I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie, but I am a fan, so I'll add Taylor Swift. Oh, also about the baseball, I would like to apologize to my sister-in-law for calling baseball boring. It's not boring, it's actually kind of interesting. You were right. So anyway, and I like the movie Back to the Future. So I'll also vote on Michael J. Fox. Let's do one more. I mean, students can vote on as many as they want. And Bad Bunny's playing at the Super Bowl or performing. He's not playing, he's performing at the Super Bowl. Surprise, he's a football player. So I'll vote on him. Okay, I think I'll keep it to those four. Now I'm going to leave the student side of things and go back to my teacher profile so you can see what it looks like on the teacher side. While I was doing this, we had some of our team going in as students and voting as well. So you'll get to see how it comes up when multiple people have voted on student picks. Okay, English for Daily Life, Autumn A, into my content drawer, all the way over to student picks. And now, as the teacher, I can see four students voted on Bad Bunny, two for Michael J. Fox, one for the rest of them. Okay, so if I want to take what my students think into consideration, I'll probably go with the Bad Bunny lesson. So I'm sorry, Michael, Taylor, Shohei, Bob, and Simone. I apologize, you're not going to make it in this time. And I am on a first name basis with all of them. I'm pretty famous. So it will be the Bad Bunny lesson. I'll click it and I'll add it to teaching actually because today we'll do a lesson on Bad Bunny. I hit save and now it's right here in my teaching lane. If for whatever reason I realize, no, I actually don't want to do that, I can just hit delete and it will be back to how it was before.
Great. So student pick seems like a simple way for teachers to gauge general interest. Can you make changes to student picks?
You can, yes. If I'm in the content drawer on student picks, there are three dots in the right-hand corner, and I can either clear the picks. So when I click this, that resets the votes to 0. So students will still have access to them, but when I hit reset, they all disappear now because it's as if, again, there are no votes. If I don't want my students to have access to this lesson section anymore, so I just want to have it be gone, I'll click those three dots and now I click unshare. I'll select the section I'd like to unshare, which the only section I shared was the famous people section, and I hit remove. And now it is gone. So if I were to log in again as a student, I wouldn't see anything under student picks.
So student picks is something I can have ongoing throughout the term, or I can make changes to it and change up what lesson sections students can vote on.
Yeah, exactly. You can make this as flexible and dynamic as you want and use this as many times as you want in one class. Yeah. All right. I think this is actually a good transition point to move into folders. So I can sum up for you what we've talked about so far in case anyone joined after. And just a reminder, there will be a recording of this. We've talked about the save section, the recommended section, and student picks. So saved is for content I'm gathering up for sometime in the future, maybe I just want ideas that I can come back to. Recommended is what Ellii suggests based on, the lesson calendar, what's featured, and then your class settings. And student picks, like we just talked about, is what students want to learn about, what they want to hear about from you. Okay, we're in the content drawer, so I'm actually just going to click on folders now. But before we even talk about adding folders, I will teach you how to create them if you're wondering. But we have folders because it's another good way to get organized. At the beginning of class, I was mentioning like I struggled with organization. I was one of those teachers that needed help organizing. For example, I used to find lessons on Ellii and I would copy and paste the link put it in a Google Doc, and it just became this really long list of links with no order, no organization. And then, of course, I wasn't utilizing it because I was getting overwhelmed by the list, and it's just not effective. And folders would eliminate that. So when I was a teacher, I didn't utilize these features on Ellii, and I should have. So folders will allow you to organize a lot of content. I'm going to leave the content drawer and go back up to the everything menu. You might be noticing a pattern anytime you want anything. Go to the everything menu, it's all there. And on the left-hand side under planning and prep, there's a folders button. So when I click it, now I'm on my folders page and I can see everything here that I've added. For example, up top, this folder warm-up visuals, I created because when I taught, I often would start my class with a picture. I'd put it up on the slide, and students would use vocabulary. They see like, oh, that's a tennis ball or that's a spatula, and it would help elicit vocabulary, help get them thinking in English. But I would often be rushing last minute before class, Googling pictures to find, and sometimes, I couldn't even think of like what picture to look for. Little did I know, Ellii has a photo prompt section, so I've added some of that content into this folder. We have a full photo prompt section that has little lessons with pictures, and I could have just been pulling from that this whole time. And I also added some videos because you could use videos from our site as well for vocabulary warm-ups. And this would have been very helpful. And as I talk, I'm noticing a pattern of procrastination here. Ellii helps with that. And when I'm in my folder, I can move things around. If visually, you like to know, I'll be working on this photo prompt today, I'll be using out to lunch tomorrow, you can move things around when you're in there. But let's go back to my just main folders page, and I can show you how to create a new folder since I just showed you one that already existed. I'll click new folder, and I like to make folders with general themes usually because you can tie these folders to any class, right? It's not specific to one class. So I think I'll do a back to school folder. This could be for a variety of classes I teach, and I'll hit save. Let's add some content to it. On our everything menu, there's a button called collections, which some of you may or may not know about. And collections are groups of lessons that are organized by theme or function. And I know that in our everyday topics collection, we have a back to school collection. So let's click into that. And now I can see 176 results. I can always filter it by level and age and material if I'd like. But I see right up top, there's this lesson about a school tour. And this could be good for, anyone who's unfamiliar with what it's like to be in school. So I'll click into it, and there is a folder icon right up here. So you see that add to class button, the folder icon's to the left of that. I'll click it, and now I can either add it right into that back to school folder, or when I'm here, I could even make a new folder if I wanted to. I'll hit save, and now it's in that folder. For the sake of time, I won't go through, and add a lot more content, but I just want to point out that anytime you're on our site and you see this folder icon, so whether it's inside of a lesson on the overview page, or if you're, on our lesson sections and you're looking into them and you see that folder icon next to the lesson, that's how you add it to a folder. You just click the icon, add it to your folder, and then it's all right there. So it's a really it's a really convenient way to organize your materials.
And Christine, let's say I'm an admin or a teacher with an organization. Can I create a folder so that others at my school can use content that I recommend?
Yeah, you might have even seen that there's a little shared button here next to this job vocabulary folder. And that means that I've already shared this folder with people in my organization. And I can do that with any of my folders. And even with this folder that's already been shared. So let's say a few new teachers just got hired, they joined our Ellii organization, and I'd like to share this folder with them. I can do that. I click the three dots and I can click share with. Now I could also unshare it if I decided I didn't want to share it anymore. I can click share with. And now I see the list of teachers part of my organization on Ellii. So you can only use this feature if you're part of an organization account and you can only share things with teachers who are in your Ellii school, right? So anyone who's in my Ellii school shows up, and I've already shared it with you, Kylie. Maybe I'd like to share it with Michelle too. Or if I'd like to share it with everyone, but I don't want to individually click on everything, I could use the button up top, turn it on, and then it automatically shares with all the teachers in my school. I hit share, and now the folder's been shared. And it's cool because even though I've already shared it, I can go into my job vocabulary folder and add more content. And then those teachers will still continue to see that content be updated in the folder. So they're dynamic and flexible. Now, there's also a shared with me tab here. So next to my folders tab, there's a shared with me tab. And this is the list of folders that have been shared with me from other teachers and other admins part of my organization. I've got a list here, variety of teachers have shared with me. I know Kylie, you shared this spring and summer folder with me, and I see all these different lessons. Packing for a summer vacation. Okay. Big surprise, everyone. I procrastinate on packing too. Ellii, can you help me with my packing? Is there a feature for that? I don't know. Maybe the lesson has some tips. But as I'm looking through this folder, I notice I can't drag anything around and I can't delete things. So that's because this is Kylie's folder, right? This is not mine. I can't change things from someone else's folder. Don't be worried about that. If you're another teacher admin and you'd like to share a folder, it stays as you want it, right? So if I want to make changes to this, I can go to the top and click the three dots and then copy to my folders. Now I'll go back to my folders page and I can see that spring and summer folder is now on my page. This is a copy. I can now move things around and, oops, let me go back. I forgot to hit my folders. It's right there under my folders. So right up top, spring and summer, I was just under shared and I meant to hit my folders. So make sure you go back to the my folders tab. And now it's here, spring and summer. Now, okay, I can see these dots. I can move lessons around again to visually organize. I can delete things, add things because it's my copy.
And so is there a way to link a folder to a particular class?
Mhm. Yes, we can do that really quickly and easily. And we'll use this to tie it into now using folders with the content drawer. So I'll click back to folders just to my main folders page because I want to add this warm-up visuals folder to my adult ed class, the English for Daily Life class. I click the three buttons and then I can click pin to class and then I'll choose my class. Or let's say you want to click into the folder. Maybe it's been a while since you created it and you just want to look at the folder and review what's in there. I'm like, okay, yep, I like all this content. There's a big button in the top right-hand corner that says pin to class. I can click it. I'll click my English for Daily Life class. I hit pin, and now it's in there. I get this pop-up. I can hit view class. I'll go to my content drawer, folders, and I can see all of the folders I have, including the warm-up visuals that I just added.
Okay, so you showed us how to pin a folder to the content drawer. I also see a little button there that says
Mm,
folders. What is that?
yeah. Yeah, okay. This button, pin folders, is a shortcut. It connects the folders page to your content drawer, and you don't have to exit out of this page and go back to the folders page and then add it that way. So let's say you're in your content drawer, but you know you have a folder you've created that you like. All you have to do is click pin folders, and then you can scroll through. And let's see, I'd like to add this folder about fall. And now I hit save, and it's right here in my content drawer. And we did it this way because when you create folders, we didn't want all of your folders from the folders page to just automatically go into each content drawer, because that would probably be overwhelming and they might not apply to that class. So this allows you to customize it, only add the content you want. And again, you can do that with this shortcut pin folders button.
And so how do I assign lessons from these pin folders to my students?
Okay. You can click into any folder you'd like. So let's do the warm-up visuals one. And now I see the content in here. I'd like to choose the grocery shopping lesson. Again, this is the lesson where I can pull a picture from it and use this as a warm-up. And I'll choose teaching because I'm teaching a shopping lesson today. So I'll hit apply. I'll go into my content drawer, and now I see that grocery shopping lesson is right there. So let's say am teaching this, or my students are on their devices and I want it right there ready for them. They can access it. I could show it in class, however you want to do this. And then I could use that as a fun warm up before the going shopping lesson.
Yeah. So this seems like such a great way to keep track of and share content. Is there a way to add lessons that I've already taught into a folder easily?
You can definitely do that. You can actually export an entire lesson planner into a folder. So let's pretend this is the end of the term. Okay, this is English for Autumn A, but the term is ending. And I really like all of this content, and I don't want to have to start over. I don't want to have to recreate all of this again and organize it all and search through Ellii and find it. I can take this entire lesson planner and move it into a folder. I'll hit save to folder. I'll name the folder English for daily life content, because this is not a class I'm making in this moment. I'm making a folder, and I'm going to just transfer the teaching and taught materials. I don't want all the extra stuff. I've decided, I'll just do teaching and taught. I'll hit export. Now this is a folder, and I get this pop-up view folder. And I can see all this content is now in my English for Daily Life folder. If I have created my Autumn B class, so this is English for Daily Life Autumn B now, it's a new term coming up. I've created my class on Ellii. I can hit pin to class. I'll select now English for Daily Life Autumn B. I pin it. I get this pop up for view class. And there's nothing in my lesson planner, right? We're pretending I just made this lesson planner, the other day in preparation for the term. I haven't put anything in it yet. But now in my content drawer, I have my English for Daily Life content, all of the materials from my previous term. I can click into it and select as many or few lessons as I want. And I'll move it first into my prepping lane because I'm planning for the near future, and head into the lesson planner. And now I want to start. So the term starts next week, and I know my first lesson, will be using a computer. And I haven't added students to this class yet. So even though it's in my teaching lane, like I'm just having it ready. So as soon as I add students to the class, they can see it. So I've got my lesson here and then the follow up in the prepping lane. So yeah, that's how you would export an entire class into a new class.
Yeah, and so this means I don't have to find all of this content again every time a new term starts. I can just create a new class like you did, pin this folder to the content drawer of the new class, and add materials to the lesson planner when I'm ready to teach them.
Yeah, you are keeping what you liked from that previous term, and then you are adding it to a folder, and then adding the folder to your new lesson or your new class on Ellie, and you can visually lay it all out there again with the lesson planner.
Okay. So thanks, Christine. So just to recap, in the content drawer, you can save material that you might want to use. You can explore those personalized recommendations from the settings, and you can pin folders to pull content from. You also can have students vote on potential lessons with student picks.
hmm Exactly. And I also was thinking too, with all of these features on Ellie, we've been talking a lot about, how it works for you as a teacher. And we did mention sharing to other teachers. But another way you could use these tools on Ellie to help your coworkers is, maybe you have a new teacher who's part of your group and they will be teaching this English for daily life class, but they don't really know what to plan or how to plan. You could even share your entire lesson planner with them by creating a folder like I just did, and then sharing that folder with them, and they could add it to their lesson planner, which is pretty cool. And so I don't know. When I was new, I got really nervous about grammar. Now I actually love it, but I used to be really uncertain about grammar. And I remember with present perfect, I didn't even really know what to say when I got questions about it, when I first started. So if a teacher had created like a present perfect course or something for me and added it to a folder on Ellie, that would have been a lifesaver. So all you veteran teachers out there, maybe make a folder for some of those new teachers and help them out. That'd be really nice. Yeah.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah.
So let's open it up to Q&A before we
Okay.
wrap up here. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A here and see what questions we have here. It looks like a question just came through. Some of my students told me that once I move a lesson to the taught lane, they can't finish the exercises. They just see the content. Is it possible now to do that? So I think that's
Oh,
taking a look at the past lesson section lessons in the student view.
yeah. Okay. Let's go into English for Daily Life, Autumn A, since I already have lessons there in the taught lane. So, yeah, right now we've got a couple lessons in the teaching and then these lessons in the taught, for example, like following procedures. So, let's log out of the teacher side and I'll log in as a student and show you what that looks like on their end. Okay, again, I'm pretending to be a student, logging in to one of my students' accounts that has access to this class. And when I, as a student, go to my English for Daily Life Autumn A class, I see my current lessons. Those are the ones we're working on. Now, under past, I can view all of these lessons. Let's click into following procedures, and I can actually hit start lesson, and then I can do it from here. So if your students have access to their class and they can see, again, I'll just go back and show you. I go to my classes page as a student, I click into it. Under past, I have all of the lessons my teacher has added, and I can go into those lessons and, like this student didn't actually ever do any of this, even though it's already been taught, and I can go back in and do it. So hopefully that clears things up. They can still access those tasks and practice them, even redo them if they want in review.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Christine. Another
Mhm.
question came through. Is it possible to add flashcards to a set in batches? So I think just taking a look at how to add flashcards again.
Okay, let's go back then to the teacher side of things. Okay, logging in as a teacher. And I really enjoy the flashcards because you can keep them as they are, or you can even customize them. And so, just to make sure this question is just Kylie about flashcards specifically, not necessarily like the content drawer.
I
Just,
think you could
yeah.
show flashcards and how to add them to the
Okay.
content. Yeah.
So if I go to flashcard, let's see, oh, media gallery. So I'm going to go to media gallery and then I will create a flashcard set. Let's go to that food and drink set. Now I could either look through the pre-made categories and add them that way, or I could choose my own. So let's do vegetables and I'll click a few different ones. I'm not going to add many for the sake of the class. I can then save it to my own set and I can create my own set. I'll label this vegetables. You might not want to show, every single vegetable, right, that comes up on Ellii, so you can choose your own. I click that set, hit save. Now I have it under view sets. It's right here. Vegetables, vegetables, vegetables. There it is. And now it's in my flashcard sets. And I could also go to the three dots on the right-hand side, add it to a class, choose my young learners, and then add it there. But if you also want to access it, it's on the everything menu too on the left-hand side. If you didn't want to go to the media gallery and just you wanted to access your pre-existing flashcard sets you've already made, it's under planning and prep.
Wonderful. Another question came through. Can you show the assign individual student
Oh, yeah.
all option again? I know you went over
Mhm.
this, but as it's a new feature, I think people are curious
Yeah.
how that works
Yeah.
again.
This is, I've been saying everything's a great feature. Everything's a wonderful feature. It's all good, right? Everything on here is good, but this is one that I know a lot of teachers will say extra great because we've gotten a lot of requests for this. Okay, I'll go into my English for Daily Life class. I've been using that for most of this webinar, and I recommend assigning the groups of students while it's in the prepping lane. Because just remember, if it's in the teaching lane, your students can access that on their devices, right? They can log into their accounts and see it. So I would assign this while it's still in prepping before anyone sees it in your class. Let's click on asking for directions. All you do when you click on the lesson. So I click on it. And now up top, the tab that says students is where I can decide, do I want all my students to see this or only some? If I hit some, I can then scroll down and decide which students from this class I want to have access. And when I hit save, now this lesson card has what looks like a person in a graduation cap. That tells me I have customized that lesson and assigned it to only some of the class.
Okay. Thanks for that. I'm just
Mhm.
looking for another other questions here that are coming through in the Q&A. Let's see here. Mm, Can we select all in the flashcards section, so like the phonics cards to make a set?
Okay, let's go up to media gallery. So like if you're in like phonics and pronunciation.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's click phonics here. You could hit add to class and then it will add all of these. You don't have to go in and individually choose, right? So yeah, if I just go to phonics and I see there's 78 flashcards,
Mhm.
I can hit add and everything in the phonics category will get added. I only need to hit the plus sign if I decide to customize it and make my own customized set. So yes, you could do it either way, all of them or your choice. Same, like I click on this sound and I could add this way or add them all to class. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And I see another question that came through. How do I put lessons from the saved section of my content drawer into a folder?
Okay. Let's go into our content drawer. So I'll choose again my English for Daily Life class. And so I'm in the save section, and the question is, how can I take something from saved and then put it in a folder?
Yes.
All right. I'm in the save section. I click on the lesson going to the library. Now, if I want to add this to a folder, I'm actually going to click on the link here that's going to take me to the lesson overview page. And now I see the folder icon in the top right-hand corner. I click that and I can either add it to a folder I've already created, or right here, I can click new folder. I'm just going to name test because I can't think of any good ideas, but you can name it whatever you want. And then you hit save, and now it's in the folder. So you could click the lesson from the content drawer, takes you to the lesson overview page, and you hit the folder icon.
Okay. Thanks, Christine.
Hmm.
Another question that came through was, is there any way to impersonate a student from the teacher's screen? And I think it'd
Mm,
be great if you could just share how to create a student account in order to see the
yeah.
class.
On if any of those teachers who have access to Ellii Solo, you can do it from the Ellii Solo end, but not from this main our main Ellii platform, which is what we're talking about now. So you can't just do a student view, but you could, yes, create a student account and then view it from there. If you are on a plan where you have unlimited students, this is a great option because you can just make as many student accounts as you wanted. Let's go into my young learners class and I can click students and see, I have all these students already in here, but I want to be able to be a student and see this class. I could manually click manually create account. I can write in my name, first, last name, create my own username, password, create a student account. And then I would, like I did during this presentation, I would log out and I would log in as a student and I could access then everything as a student. I actually, for these presentations, created some student accounts so then I could go do that. So you could manually create an account and just make one for yourself that way.
Awesome. Thank you. I
Hmm.
think that I'm taking a look at the Q&A here, and I know we've been able to answer quite a few questions so far. Looks like we have about 4 minutes left. I think you could probably answer this question pretty quickly as we're wrapping up. What's the difference between Ellii and Ellii Solo?
Yes. All right. Ellii and Ellii Solo. Okay, quick version. So, Ellii, what we've been talking about, I almost said all day. It's been an hour, but we've been talking about this last hour is where we need teacher involvement. Teachers need a teacher license to have access to the platform. And then I, as a teacher, would either print PDFs to give to my students or I would create a digital class and assign lessons that way. Students only have access to what you give them, whether that's a PDF or through the lesson planner. With Ellii Solo, you don't need teacher involvement. You only need an admin to add those students to the account. But then Ellii Solo is all about self-study. So students can go on their own devices whenever they want, access all of the content on Ellii Solo. It's around 800 of our lessons from the Ellii platform. And then there's also videos and shorts and flashcard review. And students just have all the access that way. They get placed into a pathway and they have a learning journey. They have a library where they can see everything. So I know we're almost out of time. That's the quick overview. Ellii Solo is great for students to access things without that teacher involvement.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for answering that question. I
Hmm.
think that is all we have for time for questions, but of course, you can always reach out to us at hello@ellii.com.
Yeah, that email is right there on the screen. I mean, it's, yeah, hello@ellii.com. But yes, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate you coming out. And actually, this is the first webinar that Kylie and I have done as part of the Ellii team. So thank you for your support. And if you have questions, like we said, email us. Also, the recording for this webinar, I know we've gotten a lot of questions about that. This recording will be uploaded to our YouTube page. And if we go back to Ellii's main page, let's click on the Discover page or go to the Discover page. If you scroll down, all the way down at the bottom, first of all, there's a help docs link under support. That's great for extra help on the site. And at the bottom, there's a webinars link. So I'm moving over it with my cursor right now in case you can see it. When you click that, this is our webinars page where we will post upcoming webinars and past webinars. You can see all of the recordings of our past webinars here. So YouTube and our webinars page will have today's recording.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine.
But yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
All
Bye.
right.
Happy teaching.
Bye. Have a great day. Oh, happy Friday. Happy Friday. All right.
Bye,
Bye
everyone.
everyone. Bye. Ellii.